service. If I like, I order twice. Hibachi, got the gravy on the rice. Rolling in Mexico.
Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome into another edition of the Steelers Sunday Night Q&A. And for the last time this off season, let's see here. Sorry, my music keeps going here. For the last time this season, it will be on a Sunday night as we look ahead to the start of the regular season. This show is going to be moving. It will no longer be the Sunday night Q&A. We'll still be doing a Q&A time around 8:30 or so, but we're going to start on Thursdays now after the Steelers preview with Jeff, Dave, and Brian is over. I'll hop on with a guest and we will discuss all your questions heading into the next game of the season and what to expect from the Pittsburgh Steelers and what we thought of their last performances, all those good things that we get to on this show during the season. I'm excited for it, and I cannot wait to tune in with you guys every week to talk some Pittsburgh Steelers. My name is Jeremy Betts. Welcome in to the Steelers Q&A. Let's get rolling here. We're going to start just greeting some people. Jared Devil's in the building. Steeler Nation Australia in the building. I think that's Maddie Peverall. But I could be wrong. I always get that mixed up, so I apologize. No, it's Mark. It's Marky D. Marky D, thanks, man, for tuning in. Dennis Povlak's in the house. Afton Forred, Andre Coleman. Guys, welcome in. I'm sure there's a lot more of you. Hop in the chat. We'll get to your questions. We'll talk through a bunch of things Pittsburgh Steelers related tonight, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's just me tonight. Holiday weekend. Just wanted to do a little Jeremy Betts only special for you guys tonight, just to not bother anybody else on the holiday weekend. Very, very, very excited about this last Sunday, right? Before Pittsburgh Steelers action springs again. And we're opening up in Atlanta, as Marky D puts in here, gives us $5 in the super chat. Thanks, Marky D. Falcons and Kirk Cousins will be sacked 4 to 6 times. I really hope so. And I think it's possible. I'm thinking that this defense is going to be ready to fly around the field and make people forget or make people remember that they are the reason this team will be successful in 2024. It's a great point from Mark here to highlight the pass rush, because we haven't talked about it much outside of Nick Herbig. Nick Herbig's rise and is he going to be the next stud player for the Steelers on the outside? But we haven't heard much about Alex Highsmith with the groin injury. We haven't heard much about TJ Watt because they kept him, under wraps. You have to with a guy like that. He doesn't need any work outside of just getting out on the field for practice, the flow of the game, getting in football shape. Don't need to have this guy out there hurting himself or anything like that. So it gave a bunch of young guys, Nick Herbig especially, a chance to shine, and he did so. I also thought DeMarvin Leal showed out a little bit on the outside, and that's why the roster cuts were what they were, keeping only 3 outside linebackers technically, and then 8 defensive linemen, including Leal, who pops out on the edge when needed. I think he does a great job there as the 4th edge rusher. You have to feel comfortable with that in that rotation. It's going to be a lot of fun to see him play alongside TJ, alongside Alex, Nick, however they get those guys out on the field. It's going to be great. We got another super chat from the Quad Father. What's up, man? Dennis Pavlak. $2. Honestly, is Kirk Cousins even 100%? That is going to be a question mark going into the season for the Falcons. And as somebody who spends a lot of time digging into the entire league, not just the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm pretty high on the Falcons overall this year. I think they have a chance to start pretty quickly, especially on offense, if Kirk Cousins is healthy. It's an offensive system that Cousins is very familiar with. If you're not familiar with kind of the coaching tree that he's been a part of now for the last 4 years under Kevin O'Connell up in Minnesota, he's a Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan disciple. That's where he comes from. And Kirk Cousins' new offensive coordinator in Atlanta is Zach Robinson, who coached offense under Sean McVay last year, came over with Raheem Morris when Morris got the head coach gig in Atlanta, came over from the LA Rams. And these guys are ready to cook. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of getting used to the offensive scheme for them, if you will. Maybe for some of the skill position players, there's some questions up front on the offensive line. But overall, this is a team that they're going to come out and probably be firing on all cylinders pretty quickly. I'm not saying exactly week one. I'm not saying that they're going to be better than what this defense in Pittsburgh can bring, but they're going to be good. So we'll see. If Kirk Cousins is not 100%, then it could be interesting. Omar's Burner. I saw your question earlier. I was going to get to it. Jeremy, do you like the profile picture? We pivot. Thanks for the $1.99 to the cash there, Omar's Burner. Okay, so I'm fine with a pivot in direction here. I don't know if that's the pivot they're going to make to Devonta Adams, but I like the 17 in black and gold. I think he would be great. It's very interesting if he's going to, or how that his season in Las Vegas is going to play out, because that is a team not built to win at the quarterback position specifically. The defense looks all right. There's some good skilled position players. But the offensive line, it could have some issues, and the quarterbacks we know are probably the worst quarterbacks in the league at this point. So, man, if he gets unhappy there and is begging to be out, would the Raiders take what they can get as a part of their rebuild, and the Steelers could pounce on that sometime before the trade deadline? Man, I think it could be. So, all righty, let's get back to some questions that have popped in here that are not super chats. This one from Joseph. I've got to try this eventually, Joseph. Misjenovich. I'm going to say Misjenovich. And I could be completely wrong, so I apologize profusely if I am wrong. But Joseph's question is, Jeremy, have your expectations changed after the preseason? I've been fairly high on the Steelers overall this year. I'm not predicting them to be a Super Bowl team. I don't think they're going to go to an AFC championship. There's too many other good teams in the AFC this year, quite frankly, for me to feel comfortable about that with where they're at the quarterback position and out wide at wide receiver without a real number 2 receiver behind George Pickens at this point. So I guess I would say my expectations for this team have settled a little bit, not necessarily lowered. I'm still pretty high on them. I think they're a playoff team. I think they're a team that can win a playoff game this year. I think they have a shot at the AFC North. And if they win the AFC North, anything can happen at this point. You've got a home playoff game. You've got a higher seed. It's enough wins to where you're maybe in the running for a bye week as the number 1 overall seed. We'll see. I think they can win the division. I think that they've got a chance to do that. The schedule's going to be tough. The AFC is going to be even tougher than it was last year. The Jets are back probably. The Dolphins have improved. The Jaguars and the Colts have improved. 2 teams that just missed the playoffs last year. It's a tight race. It really is. The Bengals get Joe Burrow back. Who am I missing here? I mean, even the Titans aren't going to be a pushover this year, and they're considered one of the worst teams in the AFC, right? The New England Patriots, they're going to have a good defense. It's not going to be easy, any of this. So, I have expectations kind of on par with where they were before, still pretty high on this team overall. But I think the ceiling is maybe a little bit capped by what we saw in preseason from the quarterbacks, and from the offense as a whole, needing maybe a year to get its legs underneath it. So we'll see how it plays out. But I am pretty high on the team overall, Joseph. Thank you for your question. Let's see. Keep rolling through here. Did Steelers Nation Australia, Marky D asked, did Kirk Cousins play preseason? Maybe he will be rusty. I don't think he stepped foot on a field for preseason. It was all Michael Penix Jr. He could be a little rusty. I mean, he could be a lot rusty. That's a full year of, or a half a year of not playing football after an Achilles tear. He seems to be healthy from that, but he hasn't played. So it could be rusty from a on-field, haven't been on the field in a while perspective. But as far as the offense goes, do I know this offense? I'm in a new place. Am I going to be able to have good rapport with my receiving core? I think he's fine. And I think that this is a good core of weapons around him. And don't forget Bijan Robinson, if he can be the Atlanta Falcons version of Kyron Williams last year, he's got more talent than Kyron Williams as a player. This could be an incredible rushing attack as well. So I'm excited to see this team. I've got family in Georgia. My second favorite football team is the Falcons. Went to a Falcons game last year, the Falcons versus Texans, and the Falcons won that game in Atlanta. It was a lot of fun to go to. And so Steelers getting to go to Atlanta this year, it's interesting. And we played them a couple years ago as well, and Kenny Pickett got a win. So, well, the defense really did. But here's a good question from Marky D again. Who's the Falcon who the Steelers must be on the lookout for? To me, that player is Kyle Pitts, and he's going to be talked about a lot, especially in fantasy football circles, which is one of my things. You guys know that fantasy football is a favorite of mine. So I'm high on Kyle Pitts this year, and I think he's the guy that the Steelers should be concerned about. The nickel position is a struggle. They're working in some new safeties this year in Pittsburgh. The linebackers are new too, so you're going to need a lot of good communication. You're going to need a lot of guys on their toes. He's not just your typical tight end. Really, he's a big receiver and just as fast as the receiver types. He is just an all world athlete, and it hasn't always shown out on tape. It hasn't always shown out in the production, but I would assume the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to have their hands full with a guy like Kyle Pitts. He's the guy on offense that I would look out for. And then don't sit on your hands when you're talking about a guy like AJ Terrell on the back end of this defense, being able to him and Jesse Bates. Are they going to double George Pickens a lot in this game? That it would make sense to, and see what the Steelers have in some of these other guys. That could be an interesting ploy and tactic for the Falcons. And if they're able to get some pressure up front a little bit better than they have been able to the last few years, and Kyle Pitts and the Steelers really struggle finding guys to get open outside of George Pickens, then is the offense going to be able to move the ball through the run game and through some of these supporting pieces? We'll see. We'll get proof of concept pretty quickly here. So don't sleep on AJ Terrell. Really good corner, signed a big contract this offseason. He's got a chance to prove that he's one of the top 5 or 6 corners in the league. And what better challenge than a hungry George Pickens to start things out? So let's see here. Keep scrolling through. Christopher 11. Hi, Jeremy. If they're 4-0, will your expectations change? If the Steelers are 4-0 after their first 4 games, so that's a win in Atlanta, a win in Denver, a win against the Chargers, and then what's the week 4 game, Jens? Help me out here. What's the week 4 game? I know I'm behind, so I'm going to look it up while you guys I should know this, but Steelers schedule. Nope, I didn't want to click on Chargers. Oh, Colts. That's right. In Indianapolis. If the Steelers are 4-0 through that stretch, I'd say they're doing what they're supposed to do. I wouldn't have necessarily changed expectations at that point. The back half of the schedule is tough. I see Andre Coleman has a question about that. Well, I'll just pop it up since we're talking about it. Why is everyone skeptical about the back half of the schedule? I don't see the back half as tough because any of the teams Pittsburgh plays in that stretch may end up being bad. That's true. It's not expected for that to be the case, but injuries, the Eagles being a complete and total self-destruct last year, that plays into this, right? So Andre Coleman, you make a good point here that maybe things will look a little different in the back end, but it's all the division opponents. Doesn't matter who's playing, who's starting. Division games are always going to be tough. And the Steelers, though, play their division mates tough. They win a lot of those games. So wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers are able to take advantage of the back half of the schedule with all of their AFC North opponents in play. So, all right, let's see here. All right, here's one from Justin Manecki. Justin, thanks for tuning in. Do you think the Steelers will win a playoff game this year? I do. I think the Steelers are going to win a playoff game this year. And my reasoning for that is that I just think they're a better team than they have been the last few years. They may still be on the fringe of the playoffs because the AFC is so deep, but that doesn't mean they're not a better team. I think once you get outside of the top 2 or 3 teams in the AFC, it's an open competition from there. Just did our AFC rankings a couple weeks ago. It was Chiefs, it was Texans, and then it was a bunch of teams that there's question marks, but there's also high upside. The Steelers are one of those. And so it obviously a bunch will play out in the coming weeks, and we'll have a better idea where the Steelers stand. But I don't see them as the team that sneaks in by the skin of their teeth because we're not sure if they're good enough. I think they might sneak in by the skin of their teeth because there's a lot of good teams in the AFC, but I think that they're going to be a real contender for the playoffs and for a win. So I think that the Steelers will win a playoff game this year, and it's about dang time if they actually do. So that would be my guess there. That would be my prediction there. Dennis Povlak, Quadfather, how long of a leash do they give Spencer Anderson at guard? I'm going to say that this first game is going to tell you a lot. I think it's very short. And it's kind of interesting to talk about this as like a leash for a second year, 7th round pick, right? But he's played well. He's very versatile. And the Steelers believe in what he can do. So I'm going to say that the leash, though, is how do you do in week 1 against Atlanta? Do you struggle a lot? Because we got this young kid, Mason McCormick, who also looked really good in preseason. If the rest of the offensive line stays healthy, I can see him getting worked in pretty quickly here because he's the future at guard, right? And the Steelers going to need somebody to step in and really be a dude while Isaac Seumalo is out. That's a big blow for this offense. It really is. So cross your fingers, knock on wood, do your little rain dance, whatever you got to do superstition wise to keep the rest of this offensive line up and healthy. It's going to be a big storyline for the Pittsburgh Steelers, how this offensive line plays in the first couple weeks of the season. So, all right, what I'm going to do here before I get to some more questions, and you guys are bringing the questions tonight. I appreciate it so much. It's fun to be able to just sit back and answer questions, just talk through this stuff. Before we get to any more, though, I'm going to take a quick break for those of you listening on the audio side. Don't forget to check out our deal with DraftKings. The promo code is Curtain, 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 and you can get some rewards there. I think there's a subscription to NFL Plus Premium that you can win or that you are eligible for with that code as well. So it's a great way to get more involved in the game, to up the stakes personally, if you will. So go check out our deal with DraftKings on the DraftKings Pick 6 app. You can check that out. And that's going to be a lot of fun. So you'll hear an ad about that. That's way better than what I just read off to you by memory here. But when we come back, we're going to talk more questions about the Pittsburgh Steelers and their upcoming game this coming Sunday. Looking forward to it. Don't go anywhere. The Steelers Sunday night Q&A will be right back. And we are back on the Steelers Sunday night Q&A. Again, this is the last time it's going to be on Sunday night for the remainder of the season. We have a Thursday show now for the Q&A. Are going to run right after the preview. So when the guys, Jeff, Dave, and Brian, they wrap up the preview, I'm going to 5-10 minutes, I'm going to hop on, and we're going to just keep it rolling, right? Keep the good times rolling. Now, if the Steelers play on a Thursday night, that might change. All right. So keep an eye on the schedule for that. We'll give you updates week before, whatever, on this show, how that all changes. But you can also, if you're used to my other shows, the Steelers Fix usually has been running on Tuesday afternoons. That's moving to Thursdays. Okay. So Thursdays as well is when that's going to run. And then the Draft Dynasty podcast with my good buddy Andrew Wilbar as well, that we do on the FFSN NFL feed, that is moving to Fridays. It came out on this last Friday. It's going to move to Fridays full time for the rest of the season. So keep an eye on those there. I'll still be joining Jeff for the All Bets Are Off segment every Friday. Again, unless the Steelers have a weird schedule that week, Thursday night football or whatever, we will update and adjust as needed. All right, let's get to some more questions. You got a lot of them. I'm falling behind here, so let's answer some of these as we go. Vinny Agukun, do you think the Steelers will try to make an in-season trade to the wide receiver room depending on how next Sunday goes? It's a very high possibility. It really is. Is there going to be anybody who will dance? That'd be a good dance partner for this trade offer. If you're going to dance, you got to have a partner, right? I guess you don't have to. Solo dances can be cool, right? Enter break dancing. Hey, Marky D, can you break dance as well as the Australian representative to the Olympics this last year? I want to hear from you specifically on this. Don't blow me off. This has to be a question you answer. All right. This is my question to you. I'm putting this in the chat for you, my man. Tell me, how are your breakdancing skills? I got to know. Yeah, I think the Steelers are definitely going to be in play for a wide receiver trade, if maybe not after this week exactly. I wrote an article, and I don't think it's come out yet as of this being recorded, as of this being aired. But I wrote an article for the Steel Curtain Network about the Steelers in-house wide receiver 2 answer. Okay. And I don't want to give anything away about that, so go check it out. But I think the Steelers have kind of a wild card here that nobody's talking about because, frankly, we haven't seen much of them yet. So you can probably guess who I'm talking about. You know what? Screw it. It's Roman Wilson. And I'm not saying that he is a wide receiver 2. I'm not even saying that the Steelers view him as that. All I'm saying is that maybe the lack of real aggression in the attempt to add Brandon Ayuk, let's say, maybe it's because the Steelers have high hopes for a guy that we haven't seen a lot of yet, kind of a hidden gem, if you will. And that's Roman Wilson, because he's the draft pick, the 3rd round pick. I mean, I don't know if they even thought he was going to last that long. His skill set is perfect for this offense. He's feisty, quick, fast, good with the ball in his hands. I mean, for a smaller guy too, 5'10", 190, great hands in traffic. Not afraid to go over the middle of the field. Not afraid to mix it up in the run game as well. So I don't know. Maybe this is their answer. We don't know his dynamic play in college, his ability to separate, his ability to make big plays with the ball in his hands, be kind of a deep threat, a vertical threat. Those were all evident in his tape at Michigan. But how much of that translates to the NFL, and in what tier does it translate, and how quickly as well? Those are all big questions. So if you're relying on that and you're the Steelers, that's probably not the best thing. But if it was your fallback plan, at least it's something that we just don't know yet, right? The upside is there, but are they going to reach that upside this year? It remains to be seen. TJ Watt is an expecting father. I've seen several of you mention that in here, and I saw that earlier as well. Congratulations to TJ Watt. As most of you know, I've got a little one as well. She turns 4 actually on Tuesday, and she's fast asleep in her room right now. Not going to jump in on the show this time. We'll have her on sometime, though. Although I'm not one to shy away from my failures in life. my wife bought her a Cleveland Browns t-shirt for her birthday, which she's not put on yet. Thankfully enough. But she does like to get on daddy's. She does like to get at me. She does. She likes to sit back and say, "Go Browns, stinky Steelers." My wife's got her all tricked up in the head. So it's a tough situation. I'm just letting you guys know. So keep me in mind throughout the season as I try to uh, re-earn my daughter's heart here. It's tough. So Afton asked a question about that. Actually, have you won your kids over to the Steelers yet? I have not, Afton. It's one of my great failures in life to this point. I don't like myself a lot because of that at this point. Good question from Vinny Agukun. What do you think will be the better matchup to watch? Pickens versus Terrell or Porter versus London? Ooh, that is tough. That is a great set of matchups. I'm going to go ahead and say Porter versus London because I want to see if Joey Porter Jr. can continue to grow and develop on what he was last year, which was a top flight press corner. And Drake London's a big body, much like George Pickens. AJ Terrell is a he's a good man corner. But I mean, he's probably a little more versatile for scheme than Porter is, who's really just a lockdown man coverage corner. AJ Terrell doesn't follow. He plays a side of the field. They play a little bit different. So I'm going to say Porter versus London because I feel like that's the one we'll see 99.9% of the snaps when those two are on the field together. So I'm going to go with that one. I want to see Joey Porter Jr., number 24, really shut people down this year, make things difficult, force the Falcons to go to other people if they want to win this game. We talked about the back half of the schedule, just now getting to there. Marky D, will Warren be ready week 1? How healthy will he be? I think he'll be ready. I don't know if he'll be 100%, but they need him on the field. They really do. I think that he's going to be a massive part as he was last year, but maybe even more so in this Arthur Smith offense. Just a massive part of everything they do because he does everything well. He catches the ball well. He runs well. He blocks well in pass pro. He's not going to be off the field. If Najee Harris is on the sideline, Jaylen Warren's going to be on the field for the Steelers this year. That's how it was last year. That's how it's going to be this year. And I think that he'll be healthy enough to make it work for week 1 and hopefully get healthier as the season progresses here as they head towards Denver next week and everything too. As far as I know on Roman Wilson, this question from Kevin Motley, any updates on Roman Wilson's status? I think Pat Freiermuth might get plenty of targets this season. Pat Freiermuth is going to get a ton of targets this season. Last year he had a total of, I think it was 69 targets or something like that. That is it. And Kyle Pitts had like double that last year in a broken offense with a quarterback who couldn't throw the ball. The Steelers were in the same boat, but Pat Freiermuth had some injury issues. He was not a part of the Matt Canada scheme at all. He's going to get a ton of looks this year. It's going to be a big reason why the Steelers offensive passing attack could be successful or not if he doesn't step up and be that guy for Pittsburgh. But Roman Wilson, he's improving. He's not going to be ready for week 1, I don't think, but week 2, week 3, somewhere in that range, he's going to be back. And I think the Steelers are going to be glad to have his services. And I think he's going to step into a fairly prominent role pretty quickly. They're going to need him to with the way this room looks. So no time to hide the rookie receiver behind some other guys. He's got to get out on the field and got to get on the field fast. Excuse me. Joseph with another question. While the negativity regarding the Steelers from mainstream media, they don't have a superstar quarterback. That's it. That's the reason. They don't have a superstar quarterback. They're mediocre to good. They're not a good story either direction. They're not going to be so bad that you're looking at overhauling the coaching staff and the player roster, and they're not going to be so good that you're like, oh, this is a Super Bowl contender, and they've got a quarterback that can take them to new heights and make spectacular plays. That's why they're just not a great talking point for the national media, which thrives on talking points and high level conversation, or not high level conversation, conversation pieces, right? Where they're talking about the teams that are interesting. And outside of Pittsburgh, the Steelers really aren't that interesting for outsiders. So they could force themselves into that category at some point this year. But that is my take on that. Vinny Aguakun, over under Russ throws for 220 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Falcons. I'm taking the under on the touchdowns. I'm taking the under on the touchdowns. I'll take the over on the passing yards. Just barely over on the passing yards. I think the Steelers are going to need to throw the ball in this game to win it. And I think that the guys they have are downfield threats. Calvin Austin III, Van Jefferson, George Pickens, they're downfield guys. So I expect there to be bigger plays down the field. Okay, let's keep going here. Mark Cunningham. I don't understand why nobody seems to be concerned about the offensive line. Do you really think that 2 rookies and a second-year tackle are going to get it done consistently early on? I'm optimistic, but also realistic. That's where I'm at as well, Mark. And I do have concerns. I think they've been overshadowed by the quarterback talk. They've been overshadowed by the wide receiver talk, but they're just as valid concerns as any of those. So it's a great point to make. It's something that we need to be wary of as fans. What if this offensive line is a bit of a sieve early on? Can they dominate in the run game with 2 rookies and James Daniels is their best interior player at this point, and nothing against James Daniels, but he's always been a better pass protector than he has been a run blocker. And what's this tackle situation looking like? Is Dan Moore Jr. going to be letting guys get around him all game long, or is he going to be giving up pressures? Is Broderick Jones healthy? Is he going to be good off the right side? We'll see. It's a big talking point. It should be. You're absolutely right, Mark. And I think that the Steelers are going to have to figure this out quickly on the offensive line if they want to be successful on offense. Quadfather asks, do you think we will see a Fields package on Sunday? I do. I think we will. I think red zone, short yardage, something like that. We're going to see something from Justin Fields on the field this week. Vinny's got another question. What is everyone's favorite thing to do before game start? I love taking a quick walk, praying thanks to God for the game. That's a great pregame ritual there. For me, it's so busy. I just try to get here's my game day ritual. If you just like to hear that, basically what I do is I will not wear the color of the opposing team. So the Falcons, okay, for example, they're red and black, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers are black and gold. So I can wear black, right? Because that's for my Pittsburgh Steelers, black and gold. I can wear that. I can wear any color except the red. Can't wear any red, all right? So any game, if it's the Ravens, I can't wear purple that day. If it's and I'm sure a lot of you probably do this anyway, but that's just my thing. If I wear the wrong color, then we lose. That's just how it goes every single time. And so if we lose, hit me up on X. Ask me if I screwed up. Because if I don't get to watch the game live or something like that, sometimes I might forget, but I don't want to forget. So I'm going to start setting alarms for it myself. I have to do that for everything else. Probably should have to do that for the for the game days. I'm sorry. I'm seeing this ray gun talk from Afton. Finally got down here from the question. Yeah, I didn't see this, but I saw that the reaction was priceless to it. It's great. One of my favorite tropes from the Olympics is Ray Gun and her antics as a break dancer. I gotta see now here if Marky D responded. Yeah, he did. He just laughed. That's funny. Good stuff, you guys. Great interaction there. you know what? I tried to do this, but I'm married to a Browns fan. She wouldn't let me. She wouldn't let me do it. And I figured I should defer to her a little bit, right? Because she just birthed the child. I didn't feel like it was my choice necessarily what to put her in right away, although that would have been my choice. So, Dennis, thank you. I appreciate it. Your daughter will learn the error of your wife's ways as she gets older. I really hope so. I really hope so. I'm hoping I can show her that starting this year. Good question from Afton Ford. How much do you love Cam Hayward for putting the team first? I hope he's rewarded. He should get rewarded. I hope they get something done this week. I really do. I would love to see him under contract to get that out of the way. Couple more years. Jared Devil, put it in here. Couple more years and a ring. Yes, let's do it. The Steelers are building to win a ring in the next 4 years, right? I'm not saying that they haven't pushed for a ring in recent years, but Mike Tomlin got a 3-year extension. The Steelers cut bait on some guys that they didn't want anymore. They're rebuilding the offensive line. Next year, they're going to rebuild the defensive line, cornerback room probably. You're going to have to address wide receiver, some of the weapons. You might have to go after a running back. You might have to go after tight end if Pat Freiermuth doesn't get an extension. So they've got a lot of work to do still, but the rebuild towards Super Bowl contention is on. The goal is to get one, I would say, within that 3-year extension for Mike Tomlin, this being the first of 4 total years that he has left with the team under his current contract situation. If they don't win a ring in that time, I would assume Mike Tomlin is out the building. Unfortunately for Steelers fans, I don't think the team, you could sit here and say the team is ready for yearly, okay, we're a top 3 or 4 team in the AFC, maybe a top 3 or 4 team, a top 5 to 10 team in all of football with regularity, like they were in the 2010s under Ben Roethlisberger, right? So they're not quite there yet. But I think the goal is to get there again in the next 2 to 3 seasons. This is the trial run. What do we have in Russ? What do we have in Fields? Can we win a Super Bowl with Fields in the next 3 to 4 years? Can we win one with Russ this year or next year? Something like that. If they don't think they can, then I think that the Steelers will try to find something else. So, alrighty. AFL 67. We talked about Roman Wilson a little bit earlier. I think he's okay, right? We've talked about that he's back on the practice field doing some light work. Don't think he's going to be ready for week 1. He might be ready for week 2. Week 3 would actually kind of be my target date for him to come back. Hopefully it's before that, but if not, then we'll see if he can get on the field for week 3. That would be my hope against the Chargers. Dennis Povlak, Quadfather, it's a great question. What's going on at slot corner? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know why the Steelers haven't addressed nickel corner more than they have. Don't know why they haven't addressed wide receiver 2 more than they have. It's the unanswerable question. It's unanswerable. So you have to go back and start processing the mind of Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin, and it's just not possible. I don't even want to try to get into it at this point because we've talked about it all offseason, how the need was there, and you're relying on unproven guys. I still think a guy like Patrick Peterson makes a lot of sense for this team to bring in, but they're running out of time. They really are. I thought if a move was going to be made, it would have been made already, and they haven't done it yet. So I don't know how they can feel comfortable with it, but they do enough to trot them out on the field. I trust the coaching staff to work with what they have well enough to win football games, but it could be better. And if you want to be a Super Bowl contender, it needs to be better. All right, let's see. After Forehead, who gets bumped when Moon comes back? Good question. Probably one of the D tackles. Maybe a guy like Loudermilk gets bumped. Maybe he gets bumped. Maybe they send him down to the practice squad or something like that. I don't know. It's a good question because it will depend on how DeMarvin Leal is doing as that fourth edge rusher, along with his role along the defensive line. That's my guess there. Pittsburgh Toddy 86. In your estimation, what percentage of the Steelers fan base absolutely despises Coach Tomlin? I think it's a very vocal minority. Actually, I think it's maybe like 35%, but they're very, very vocal that they actually despise him, that they want him out the building. It may even be less than that. Let's say let's go despise him. Let's go 20%. Let's go 1 in 5. Do not like Mike Tomlin. And then the other 4 out of 5, they recognize that he has some issues, yes, as a coach, as a in-game manager, as a playoff coach at this point. That's fair to recognize and point out there. But also that dudes play for this guy, that he has a culture built. He is the culture. He is the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point. And that's fine with me. And I'm happy for him. And I'm happy to have him as my head coach. And I think that the Steelers can win a Super Bowl with him as their head coach. And I don't think I'm going to sit here and figure out right away anybody else who could do better with the current roster. Although at some point I do think the Steelers need to try out the offensive head coach, the Shane Steichen type, the Sean McVay type for a proven guy. Not saying they would go get either of those two guys. I'm saying those types of head coaches. Eventually, I would love to see that. I would love to see a little bit of a shift in philosophy in Pittsburgh that puts a little bit more priority on offense. Even what they've had to do this year to get relevant on offense again, I don't think it's enough when you consider the fact that they haven't been willing to spend big money on quarterbacks. They haven't been willing to trade draft capital to move up and get a quarterback. There were trades to be made this year if they wanted a guy like JJ McCarthy. I thought that was a plenty viable option, even after they landed Russell Wilson and even after they landed Justin Fields. It makes sense to me to go get a rookie with some upside, but they didn't do that. They held off. It's fine, but eventually those chickens come to roost. And right now, the Steelers are living on defense, and they can because they have one of the best defenses in the league. They might have the best defense in the league this year, but eventually that's going to come back to bite you. You're going to have to get good on offense. You're going to have to update, get with the times on offense at some point. I would not hate it if the Steelers had an offensive head coach in the not too distant future. All righty. I think that's going to do it here for me tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Thank you for all the questions. It was a lot of fun. It was nice to just kind of sit back and answer questions. The title of the show was It's Time to Ride the Russ Bus. So before I leave, I just want to hit that real quick. The Steelers made their choice. Russell Wilson's the guy. And if the Steelers have the season fans want them to have, Russell Wilson will be the quarterback all year long, right? If the Steelers want a playoff win, a run at the bye in the playoffs, a AFC North championship, that to me plays out that Russell Wilson, barring injury, plays the whole season. If the only way Justin Fields is in as the quarterback and the Steelers are in that mix, right, is if Russell Wilson gets hurt and Justin Fields takes over, and the Steelers keep winning and don't go back to Russ. But if Russ stays healthy and he has to be benched, the Steelers are not going to have the season we expect of them if Justin Fields is in the game. So I am on the Russ bus. I'm ready to ride it. Let's ride until it stops, and where it stops will be the key. If it stops mid-season, sorry, that ride's over. If it stops without a playoff win, that ride's over. If it stops with a playoff win, that's an interesting conversation. If it stops with multiple playoff wins and an AFC championship appearance, then I don't think you can move on from him next year. I don't think you can unless you did it solely because the defense was ridiculous. So I'm all on board the Russ bus. I hope you guys can get on board too. We'll see how it plays out. He was clearly the best choice, in my opinion, to start week 1. If you want to run your team the way the Steelers have been, where we play it safe on offense, we let the defense do its thing. Hopefully we're more efficient on offense and we can play it safe and score points because of the scheme, because of the quarterback, because of the improvements on the offensive line and personnel. Injuries are concerning, obviously, and make this less of a known quantity than we thought it might be. But the point remains, the upgrades are in place. Places have been addressed at linebacker, corner, on the outside. Safety, they brought in a couple guys. The defensive front's going to be ridiculous again. I'm excited, you guys. I really am. I can't wait till we're talking about a game that's been played. It's going to be a lot of fun. Alrighty. Oh, we did have one more super chat from the Quad Father, Dennis Povlak. Next year, we're going to have to draft a quarterback. Maybe. We'll see how good Justin is. We'll see how good Russ is. It's going to be a lot of fun to see how that plays out. Thank you all for tuning in. We will talk to you next time here on the Steelers Sunday Night Q&A.